So in the previous video in Unity we saw the default scene view overlay reference, and we can also check out the display or hide and overlay. So this is pretty much the information that we have here. And if we go into our so it already loaded, so this is gonna be our project sample scene. So this is a new one, I didn't save the last one. Okay, let me see. So we have the display or hide and overlay, display or hide. Okay, we have all this stuff. We also have a position and overlay. We have the manage overlay layout, and we have create the manage overlay configurations and create your own overlay. So now we're gonna see position game object. So okay, we're gonna see the position game object. So to alter the transform component of the game object, use the mouse to manipulate any gizmo axis or type values directly into the number fields of the transform component and the inspector. Alternatively, you can select each of the 5 transform modes of the from the scene views tool overlay. So W for move, E for rotate, R for scale, T for transform, and Y for transform. So let's let me see. It's this one. Let's create, I don't know, maybe a 2D object and some physics. So let me see, what can we, let's have a sphere. Let's have a sphere. So, and let's have it maybe in 2D. Okay, yeah. So pretty much right now we have this, the 3D, the transform, the game position. So if let's move this one here, so I can click here to the X coordinate, and pretty much with my 2 fingers and my pad I can pretty much make this one zoom in or zoom out. So this is what I'm doing right now here. Also you can click here and pretty much you can move it with your mouse here. So this is what we have going on. Okay, so again we have the rotate tool, we have the scale tool. So this is the what they call the wasp, or well, the WERT. Okay, so we have that, the move, rotate, scale, rect, transform, and transform gizmos. And when they're talking about gizmos, they're talking about this one. So we have all this information here. So since the scripts to the built-in components. Okay, so in the script we have the animation play, playable asset, the animation track, animator, message listener, the cinematic pixel perfect global message listener. We have the gizmo drawer. Okay, we have all this stuff. And the built-in component, we have animation, animator, audio, reverse song, audio source, box collider 2. So this is what we have so far. So now move. At the center of the move gizmo there are 3 small squares you can use to drag the game object within a single plane, meaning you can move 2 axes at once while the third keeps still. If you hold shift while clicking and dragging in the center of the move gizmo, at the center of the gizmo changes to a flat square. The flat square indicates that you can move the game object around on a plane relative to the direction C view camera is facing. So yeah, I mean you can just let me see, I can just move it around with my finger here. Let me see. Also, okay, yeah, that's pretty much what we can do here. And okay, so we can click also the camera here, the main camera, and let me see. Okay, so I cannot move right now, but if I click here, and okay, so now I'm moving it in the Y coordinate, so I'm moving up and down, but I cannot move it like back and forth or left right. So if I choose this one, okay, now I'm gonna be able to move it back and forth. And if I choose this one is gonna be zoom in. Okay, so as you can see, it's gonna zoom out, zoom in. Okay, so we have all this. Now if I just go into click into this little square inside, so this 90-degree square, so I can move the whole circle or cube around. So this is what we have going on here. Okay, so now we are gonna see the rotate. So with the rotate tool selected, change the game's object rotation by clicking and dragging the axis of the wireframe sphere gizmo that appears around it. As with the move gizmo, the last axis you change will be colored yellow. Think of red, green and blue circles as performing rotations around the red, green and blue axis that appear in the move mode. Red is the x-axis, green is the y-axis and blue is the z-axis. Finally, use the outermost circle to rotate the game object around the view z-axis. Think of this as rotating in the screen space. So now we have the scale. The scale tool lets you rescale the game object evenly on all axes at once by clicking and dragging on the cube at the center on the gizmo. And what is this one? The scale, yeah, this one. So this is pretty much the scale here. So okay, scale. Okay, so as you can see, I'm scaling it. I'm making it really small or really big. Okay, this is what we have for the scale. We have also, let me see, you can also scale the axes individually, but you should take care if you do this when there are child game objects, because the effect can look quite strange. Rectangle transform, the rect transform, so you have my link so you can go into more detail. Okay, the rect transform is commonly used, so let me see, I think I closed this one. Oops, let me see, it was 2 column, and this one it'll be overlay maximize auto tab. So yeah, that's fine for now. Layers nothing, default. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we have the rect transform is commonly used for positioning 2D elements such as sprites or UI elements, but it can also be useful for manipulating 3D game objects. It combines moving, scaling and rotating into a single gizmo. Click and drag within the rectangular gizmo to move the game object. Click and drag any corner or edge of the rectangular gizmo to scale the game object. Drag an edge to scale the game object along the axis, so we can also drag a corner to scale the game object on the 2 axes. And finally, to rotate the game object, position your cursor just beyond a corner of the rectangle. The cursor changes to display a rotating icon. Click and drag from this area to rotate the game object. Note that in 2D mode you cannot change the z-axis in the scene using the gizmos. However, it is useful for certain scripting techniques to use the z-axis for other purposes, so you can still set the z-axis using the transform component in the inspector. For more information on transforming game objects, see documentation on the transform components. So you can, okay, oops, you can pretty much check this link if you want more information. Okay, so now transform. Let me see, we are in the scene, so we are in the scene. It's gonna be move tool. Let me see what else we have. Overlay menu, okay, that's fine. Search, okay, so we have the search. What else we are missing? Max, add tab, see, inspector, that's fine, everything is fine here. Okay, so now what we are gonna see is gonna be the transform. The transform tool combines the move, rotate and scale tools, as gizmo provides handles for movement and rotation. When the tool handle rotation is set to local, see below. The transform tool also provides handle for scaling and selecting game objects. So gizmo handle position toggles, the tool settings, so we have the center and the local. So here we have the center and the local. So we have global, local, and in center we have center and pivot or pivot. So okay, so let me see. So nothing is happening yet. Let's just go back into the scene. Okay, so yeah, this is the gizmo handle. Position toggles found in the tool setting overlay are used to define the location of any transform tool gizmo, and the handles used to manipulate the gizmo itself. For position, for rotation, snapping. So for position, use the drop down menu to switch between the pivot and the center. The pivot position the gizmo at the actual pivot point of the game object as defined by the transform component. The center, position the gizmo at the center position base of the selected game object. For rotation, use the drop down menu to switch between local and global. Local keeps the gizmo rotation relative to the game objects, and global clamps the gizmo to the world space orientation. So snapping, Unity provides three types of snapping. So we have the world grid snapping. Snap a game object to a grid projected along the X, Y, and Z axis, or transform a game object in increments along the X, Y, and Z axis. This is only available while using world or global handle orientation. Surface snapping. Snap the game object and the intersection of any collider. So we have the vertex snapping. Snap any vertex from a given mesh to the position of another mesh or meshes, vertex or surface. You can snap the vertex to vertex, vertex to surface, and pivot to vertex. When you drag a prefab into the scene, utility places them at the cursor position by default. You can preserve any offsets and the prefab relation to the cursor position by holding the Alt key while dragging the prefab. Surface snapping to snap a game object and the intersection of a collider. Do the following. So make sure the move tool is active. We have the hold, shift, and control. So you do this for the Mac, then click hold on the game's tool handle, drag the game object onto other game object with the collider. And finally we have the vertex snapping. So use vertex snapping to quickly assemble your scenes. Take any vertex from a given mesh and place that vertex in the same position as any vertex from any other mesh you choose. For example, use vertex snapping to align row sections precisely in a race game, or to position power-up items at the vertices of a mesh. Follow the steps below to use vertex snapping. So select the mesh you want to manipulate and make sure the move tool is active. Press and hold the V key to activate the vertex snapping mode. Move the cursor over the vertex of your mesh that you want to use as the pivot point. Hold down the left mouse button once the cursor is over the vertex you want to drag your mesh next to any other vertex on another mesh. To snap a vertex to a surface or another mesh, add and hold down the shift control windows or the shift command and max while a key while you move over the surface you want to snap to. To snap pivot to a vertex another mesh, and hold the control windows or command and max key while you move the cursor to the vertex you want to snap to. 5. Release the button and the V key when you are happy with the results. So we have that. Then we have the look at the rotation. So while using rotate tool, hold the shift control command Mac to rotate the game object towards a point on the surface of any collider. And finally we have the screen space transform. While using the transform tool, hold down the shift key to enable screen space. This mode allows you to move, rotate, and scale game objects as they appear on the screen rather than on the scene.